This Quantic State is someone else.
Playing on his account?
I'm guessing it's, if it is the STC, it's someone playing on his account.
Let's see if he was even at Dreamhack.
Because MLG Raleigh interview with Quantic State. Lion Bisbeck, aka Vile. It was Vile State, that's what he used to be. But yeah, this isn't him because he's a Protoss player. Okay, then it's the STC.
Yeah, he was not at Dreamhack. Or at least his achievements didn't have him anywhere.
Yeah. He's a Protoss player for sure.
Nah, he wasn't there. Just ZSTC and Safi from Team Quantic.
Here's Stefano versus Quantic State from Dreamhack, but it's actually the STC again because it's a Terran player. Anywho, wow, these people need to use their own damn accounts. Make this less confusing.
Yeah, pretty much.
The STC is on Team Quantic though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we got that straightened out. We don't look like complete retards, only mostly retards.
Well, all of our sayings can be backed up online, so that makes it true.
Yes, because everything online is true. Everyone knows this.
If you're in esports, you have to believe that. You good to go?
Yes, sir.
Alright. Hit that play button in a 3, 2, 1, play. Hey folks, welcome back to Chaotic TV for more selected games from Dreamhack Winter 2012. From Group A, we have a TVT. In the bottom left, we have the Blue Terran playing for Team Quantic. He is the STC playing under his teammate's ID state.
And spawning across Cloud Kingdom from him, playing as the Red Terran player. This is Team Liquid's Tasia.
So, I don't think we've cast a TVT yet. I'm pretty excited about this. Yeah,
and we have some pretty good players here. The STC is a long-time GSL player, and Tasia is currently the crown jewel for Team Liquid.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think Hero has wiped the floor with Tasia about 7 games in a row in Premier tournaments.
Well, as far as Terrans go.
As far as Terrans go, indeed. We see very equivalent openings for these two, and we're probably just going to watch the production tab for a little while before we see any differences, and then we'll be able to decide what's going to happen. What do you think is the normal play for TVT? Is it a bunch of Siege Marine versus Siege Marine? Because I've seen a lot of that.
It's either Marine Tank or Pure Mech. It's one of the two. Either of them, late game, devolve into Siege Tanks, a bazillion of them, versus a Siege Tank and Viking versus Siege Tank and Viking, and at that point, whichever one transitions into Raven and Battlecruiser first wins. But those are severe late game cases that we almost never see.
Yeah, I've generally seen just a whole bunch of posturing and positioning, and wow, these two SCVs were obviously set to mineral patches because they passed right through each other on that pathing, which was rather interesting to watch.
Whole body high five.
Whole body high five. Big old Terran hug. Hey, instead of a handshake, it's a hug before the big old game. Well, you see a gas coming down for both players, and again, we're just watching that production tab. Although Tasia was completely shut out, and STC was able to get in there.
He delayed just slightly his build to get that full wall finished. It's not going to make that huge of a difference in the grand scheme of things. It's going to deny scouting, but it's going to put him that tiny bit behind.
We see no bunkers coming down from either player, and I think TVT boils down to a lot of positioning, and I think that Tasia is actually pretty well known for TVT. Not as well as Ryung, but he does have a decent TVT.
Cloud Kingdom is a really good positionally neutral type map. It's got good symmetry. There's no advantages one way or the other, so you're going to see what it's going to come down to is, like you said, positioning and possibly, I think to a lesser extent, drop play, maybe.
Oh, that'd be interesting. to see. We see Factory coming down for the STC, whereas Taja's going for that early command center. We actually see some differentiation, and a reactor coming out for Taja with a Factory coming down behind it. So interestingly enough, he put out a couple of Marines and then switching to, I think, reactor Hellions, or is he just going for that delayed 111?
You say it's a little different, but looking at the production tabs, they're still almost identically lined up.
They end up in the same place with Quantic, the
STC,
and the low ground CC is going to finish before the upper ground one.
Yeah, that's going to give him just a tiny bit of economy lead, since I don't think there's anything that's going to come out from Taja that could possibly threaten that. We do see a little bit of a faster starport coming from the STC, so he'll more than likely be the one opting for drop play.
We saw his gas finish right as Tejas was put down, and only one Hellion coming out with continued Marine production from Taja. Slight supply lead in Taja's favor with only one SCV difference between the two.
Judging by what we're seeing, I still can't tell if it's going to be one person has a Marine tank and one person has a mech. It's actually looking like mech at the STC and Marine tank from Taja, if I had to guess at this point.
And it means Taja's going to have a bit more mobility on his side, but if there is ever a direct engagement, then depending on STC's composition, he will definitely take the cake.
We do see this little countering build still coming out. The STC goes Banshee and Taja's going Viking. So that Viking will give him the early air dominance along with the Marines. They're going to be really good for anti-air.
A little Hellion harass coming in from STC trying to block that, but Taja was there and ready with two of his own Hellions to scare him off.
Turns out two Hellions is better than one Hellion.
We see a third command center being built for the STC, going to move down towards the low ground as soon as it's completed, I'm sure. And just more production buildings and upgrade buildings actually coming out of Taja. He is indeed going for that Siege Marine or Marine tank play because he is getting an engineering bay.
It's actually, I think he's going to work his upgrades in a little more slowly so he can secure his economy a little better. There's one eBay as opposed to two to get double upgrades. Ooh, here we see the STC deciding he wants Marines too, making two more barracks.
Indeed he is, and the reactor for Medevacs is going to come out pretty quickly, taking out that neutral depot. And Taja still has a pretty decent supply lead, but it's mostly in Army right now, as Quantic has gone for the production building creation, and will eventually get to the point where he can make more than Taja, and he's catching up right now in supply with a bunch of queued Marines.
Yeah, the STC, he definitely has an advantage as far as infrastructure goes, and he's going double eBay to get the double upgrades, so he wants to catch up and even possibly take the lead as far as tech goes here.
Gas is 3 and 4 coming down from the STC, so he's going to be switching in. He's already getting STIM and infantry level 1 weapons, as well as armor coming down too, so the second eBay will definitely put him ahead.
And yet we do see one important lead that Joey's here talked about in TVT that Taja is picking up, and that is the siege tank lead. He's currently making his first siege tank, and that puts him ahead.
Oh yes, we will be looking at that unit count very closely for the remainder of the game, and pretty equivalent upgrades coming down out of both players. Both siege tank coming out of Taja, I think, might be a bit earlier than
STC's. And a 4th command center from the STC. He's really looking to take the lead economically here. Taja hasn't even finished his 3rd command center yet, so he's going to get quite a bit behind in SCVs and mining.
Go ahead.
That means that his army supply is going to be a little better for the time being, and if he hits a good timing attack, that could really devastate the STC.
With the extra command center, I think the STC's Marine production will be a bit more heavy, and that means his drop play will be a bit more effective, although Taja's late game tank count, if it's a lot higher than the STC's because of that, will give him the edge in a straight up battle. And
we see the second eBay coming down for Taja, but no armor yet. That's a little interesting.
2 more barracks coming out for Tasia, and he has put down that second eBay like you're talking about. A whole lot of things on the production tab. Oh my gosh, it's a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, welcome to TVT. There's the armory, and just more barracks coming down. Tasia's going to go really, really Marine heavy, and with already having the tank lead, that's going to be really good for him. He'll be able to send Marines in with stim and just take out a few siege tanks, and then he'll have his own amount of siege tanks to deal with the Marines of the STC.
STC dropping 2 more factories, 3 more barracks, and he's actually doing a reactor switch with the starport moving and building another reactor. So we're seeing a huge amount of unmolestation coming out of both of these players. They're just waiting until max before they do anything, both having the drop protection available. Although the STC's economy is already kicking into gear with this 3rd base well before Tasia's. And he moves
Tasia
that right as I say that.
He's just now making a motion to get that orbital down to the 3rd base location. He needs to get his army out in front of that, though, if he wants any hope of just keeping it safe. There's one Marine going to spot this coming down, so the STC will know. And he's got his 4th orbital command ready to go whenever he wants to reposition that as another base as well.
You can see 5 siege tanks on the field for Tasia, and 4th just finishing for STC. Still creating a huge amount of production structures. Again, the 2-2 equivalent.
I really like
down.
these supply depots being positioned at the 6 o'clock. The STC just to give them vision. I think that's a really nice touch, and it's going to help them out with the positional battle. Supply depots are definitely cheaper than sensor towers.
Most definitely, and the STC is going for that hidden 4th base down in the bottom right. Well, it's not exactly hidden, but it's more off the beaten path and less likely to be scouted. Whereas Tasia looks like he's going for the standard 4th place position, and the STC is already there, keeping it from being placed down, although there's no move towards placing one down.
Oh, this orbital over here on the bottom
wow,
right.
A 5th
Easily
CC coming out for the STC, and a sensor tower drop for Tasia. So we see a very different set of styles out of these 2 players, which I'm a big fan of because it's not just Korean versus Korean. The metagame for each country gives this whole video game of StarCraft 2 just a variation that makes it fun to watch.
These are both Koreans.
Oh, damn it, I'm retarded.
That's okay.
Either way, we're seeing a variation in style, even though it's a minor one between Marine Siege and Marine Siege, that makes it fun to watch.
Yeah, Tasia is definitely focusing on turtling here and getting his unit composition exactly what he needs. And
wow, picking off 2 siege tanks, a 3rd coming down, 4 for Tasia, and the STC supply is dropped. A 5th siege tank being lost, and a number of Marines.
Incredible Marine micro against that splash damage that. And this is going to put him infinitely ahead in this siege tank count. He's currently so far ahead in army supply and army value and unit efficiency in every way. The only thing the STC has saving him here is hidden base that the drop didn't actually see. He is going to go down and see the
big stim into the 3rd position for Tasia against Quantic State or STC, and if you can trade Marines for siege tanks, it's always great. But this will be cleaned up by the STC without any loss of SCVs that is really worthwhile. And the Marine, wow, they decided to leave that medevac with 17 health.
That was kind of funny. He walked right by 2 building command centers and decided not to take them alone, but trying to go for some SCVs. I don't like that decision, but in the heat of the moment, that's not really a fast kind of decision you're used to making. Getting a couple SCVs with that many command centers isn't really that big of a deal.
Tasia takes out all of the remaining tanks of the STC, and that's, I think, a count of over double digits for Tasia's sniping Marines. And he still takes a heck of a lead in the resources lost, 6.4k to 3.8k in favor of Tasia.
Yeah, Marines aren't really make that big of a difference in this battle. It's going to be all of these siege tanks, and this is just a far superior army coming out of Tasia. We're going to see him just, stagger his siege tanks out and start walking them forward, and he's not going to have any way to defend against this.
and the scans to give their siege tanks the extended range they are allowed. The Tasia stims forward to pick off these remainder of the siege tanks. Just heavy stop. What do they call that? I forget what it is. The stutter micro. That's what it is. But the fourth base being, or the new fifth base being taken out by Tasia, and a big push into the third. A huge amount of SCVs
counterattacking,
getting killed.
or possibly even trying to base trade here. I don't know if he's going to be able to. The sensor tower is going to see it coming in, and he's going to get some auto turrets down. That will buy him time to get the siege tank sieged up.
And they're up, and the STC pulls back, and Tasia is still sitting here with a bunch of siege tanks, and he's moving forward with 2 more. But the scans are giving his own siege tanks the extended vision and taking out that force.
He used that 1 SCV there to buffer a siege tank shot. I like it.
This force out of Quanix, the STC, in the middle of the map is all Marines, and Tasia.
Here you see Tasia has a bunch of undefended siege tanks, and he's going to get flanked here pretty quick.
Ooh, the STC has 3-3, and Tasia has only 2-2. That might explain why Tasia hasn't been as effective as you would expect from the high amount of siege tanks. And the STC lifts and takes all of his Marines home over the siege tanks.
He might just start dropping some.
Oh, he is. Giving a little bit of buffer for his own forces to come in and snipe out the remaining of them. Tasia's fourth base coming down, whereas the STC has had a pretty good economy so far for quite a while. He's at least been muling at this fifth base. He's got a couple of mineral patches that are much lower than the others.
Yeah, we see Tasia lost a lot of his siege tank advantage there, but he's still going to have it because he's producing 3 to the STC's 2.
And he's caught up in 1 level of the upgrades. His Marines are still down 2 armor to 3 armor of STC, and STC stims into this main area to try to snipe out 1, 2, 3 siege tanks, and he's going to get the bunker and another siege tank, as well as move in to take out as many SCVs as he possibly can.
Yeah, these upgrades are really paying off for the STC here. You see not only in his infantry, but his siege tanks have upgraded level 2 weapons to Tasia's level 1. He just picks off the gas, picks off all of the defending army, and he walks away. He doesn't even bother killing SCVs.
And that loss of gas is, even though it's pretty banked up for Tasia, will hit him in the long run, and even more forces coming down to do a high ground siege up on Tasia's fourth base.
What I'd like to see out of Tasia here is a couple of starports, start making some Vikings and get those medevacs thinned out. If he takes over air superiority, it'll help his siege tanks tremendously.
And a pretty darn big push into the third area, but the siege tanks all over the place from Tasia are taking out the Marines. And a big siege up on the high ground at the fourth base, and all of the SCVs move away. The extra scans from Tasia, instead of mules, are hurting his economy, but they are allowing him to gain the military superiority, although Quanix, the STC, is maxed, whereas Tasia is down 36 supply from max. Big move in by Tasia to try to snipe off all these tanks, but he doesn't have as many Marines as he had before, and the extra tanks for the STC are just wiping out these running in Marines. Although he sniped a great deal of tanks, the STC's tanks are taking out all the SCVs that are attending to this planetary fortress.
We saw Tasia make a couple of mistakes and getting his army split out a little bit. So where he had about 6 or 7 siege tanks just parked at the would-be fifth base of the STC with nothing there to help defend them, and the army that he was trying to reinforce just got caught out by a bioarmy.
A huge trade of siege tanks on both sides by these two players at Tasia's fourth. The 2 siege tanks on the top for the STC still dealing an incredible amount of economic damage, as all of these SCVs are repairing instead of attacking, and these Marines finally taking out the remainder of those siege tanks, while a huge force from the STC rolls back across because he can remax much quicker than Tasia can. And Tasia, off his 2 and a bit mining bases, is in some deep trouble right now with a SCV count of 59 to 66. And
he just spent a ridiculous amount of money repairing the planetary fortress. Not to mention the mining time he lost having to have the SCVs pulled. You see the STC even getting Terran building armor. He's running out of upgrades to buy, and he's already maxed, or rather getting close to it.
So he does what all max Terrans do. They expand, which is a great way to spend your time while you're posturing in front of your enemy's base. It's huge oversaturation at Tejas 4th. If he were able to siege up at all, if that medevac of Tejas weren't there to give that high ground vision, there would be some serious economic damage from the STC. Huge stim forward from Tejas units, and he only has one medevac here to heal up everything.
I see the planetary fortress doing a lot of work helping to add DPS to this army, but it's going to be kind of a standoff at this base here, and the standoff Liquid Teja can't afford to have. He's just too far behind in both upgrades and economy.
And the SCVs start dropping, and they're going to get pulled. So the STC is denied mining at this 4th base at a critical time when Teja is flat broke with too much money in his gas, and his 2nd base is oversaturated and mining out very quickly. I think the STC is going for the starve and carve method. Did he lose his own 4th base and I completely missed it? Oh my gosh.
Just the drop killed it.
Oh gosh. So focused on awesomeness up here in the top left that Teja was able to snipe that 4th base, but the 5th base here is...
Teja also has a Banshee at the 3rd, taking out a couple of workers before getting cleaned up by Marines.
Huh. I think this 5th base, which I don't think that... yeah, Teja still doesn't even know about. The extra muling at the 5th base has allowed all of the STC's other bases to remain intact. And Teja right now tries to go back to a little bit of mining, doing as much as he can. He's got 18 SCVs following one SCV. Now he fixes it. But all these SCVs, as they move into range, are getting taken out by single blasts from the siege tank. And the killed worker count just keeps climbing in favor of
a huge bio push coming in towards the natural with Teja. It gets caught by some of Teja's army, but there's just too many units here for him to be able to deal with.
Teja down by 75 supply with just even more forces coming out of the STC. Poor Teja flat broke. Tries to move around, but there's too many siege tanks everywhere along this upper ridge, and he's not going to be able to get out of his own base.
Yeah, here you see this entire middle ridge in the map is just coated in blue siege tanks here, completely isolating that half of the map so he can take the larger half for himself. It's really a bad position for Teja to be in.
Big flank by Teja with his remaining forces, but the STC just continues to push through the remaining siege tanks and takes out this planetary once and for all. With all of this SCVs near it trying to do their very best, and even the orbital command pulled from the natural to this brand new 4th base of Teja to continue the muling of 8 full mules, and this big marine stem in the middle of the map takes out the remaining ones, and Teja taps out for Game 1 of Dreamhack Group A 2012 between Quanix, the STC, and Liquid Teja. Lost my brain for a second. It is 2:30 in the morning. Alright guys, we're going to jump into Game 2 in just a sec. See you soon. Cheers.